I've just finished what looks like the third stock round. I'm putting the marker there at the halfway point just because I'm probably going to bed. A lot fell at once. One thing I noticed that worried me was I see these yellow ones say maybe started in phases 2 to 4, but phase 2 doesn't officially start, as far as I could tell, until the first 2 trade was sold. I looked up in the rules, it's fine. I did things correctly. I just wanted to make sure of that. Not that there would have been much recourse otherwise, but the game would have been severely flawed in terms of outcomes of what I've done if that assumption was wrong. Okay, so what happened? Well, people bid big amounts of money on these miners. Why big? Well, mainly because they wanted to be able to afford a train on them. Also because they had money. But even people who had enough to buy maybe 2 companies otherwise put maximum bids on. That was $270 to go into that one. What is that? That's the Moscow Bray, which starts over in Smolensk. Really good location right now. Sitting near a lot of rich stuff. Looks really valuable. Looks like no matter what, it's going to have something to do with its train. The next one, what's that? Donetsk. That went to who? That went to the guy with the Nikolaev. And what was that? 110. So he has 220 on there. People are playing with the idea of whether or not it'll be better to merge railroads. If they merge railroads, the stock price goes way up because it's the sum of the lowest valued and highest valued. So if you're only merging 2 railroads and they're about the same value, you're getting a bigger railroad without losing stock value, essentially. Once you go above 2 railways merging, and that may be very hard because you have to actually be able to run trains through them. Tokens of the merged companies don't count against, but you have to actually be able to run a route. And it's hard to maybe hit 3 companies at this point in the game, at least. But we're definitely looking at people who are seeing, I might be able to get more funds into my railways very soon, or whatever. Certainly with the M&B here, that can only run twice, and then it caps out. So that has to either merge or float on its own, because it was started so high. All of the rest, we can at least run for a couple of full cycles of the turn order. One person sat on enough money to buy a train but didn't, and that's this first player here. He's struggling. The idea of starting a company with only $100 on it, or 105 if he threw everything in and took a $5 loss, it would be this one, and it would really be there to merge with the MNN. Unfortunately, he'd have to buy a train with it, or else it would collapse into the National Railway, whatever that is. And you certainly don't want to buy a railroad just to collapse it into there, unless you're taking it away from someone, because you will take stock loss on that. And he's struggling enough, he doesn't want to do that. So what could he do? Well, he could juggle trains, and that's kind of a painful suggestion. He's got a pile of money. His feeling is there will probably be at least something to do with that money come next stock round. It may not be start a company, but his $100 head or 100 ruble head start may be enough that nobody really seems to have huge train power anywhere. He may be able to just to just buy that final, and he kind of wants it, the Samara railway there, Samara Vyazma, because that's close to one of his, the Moscow Nizhny Novgorod. So yeah, I think we're gonna see some interesting movement here. Another thing to notice, and this happened in the last operating round, the prices, the values have gone up in the red areas to the second value. One of the more interesting little railways is down here, Ekaterinino. What's interesting about that is if it can hook a run to Moscow, it's worth 80 as opposed to the 40 that it's worth. 40 is pretty decent too for starting. That's going to be kind of a struggle though. He's got to pay out initially to even hook anything up. Oh no, he's got perm. So $20 he could hook that up. That's not that bad. But yeah, he's definitely got to think a little more about his position because he's just outside of everything. The Tsaritsyn one may have to work a little harder than some of the others. Same with the Rostov, but it can slap right down into the Caucasus. Smolensk has to pay. Well, no, yeah, they have to pay to do their initial hookup as well, or fall back for a round, which is usually not worth it. Of course, somebody might help them. That's MB. Nah, his other railways up here, the St. Petersburg one. All right, so we'll be moving into the operating rounds, and oh boy, are they a lot of counters, wooden blocks on here. That should be trimming down, I think. One of two ways: mergers or corporations collapsing due to loans or something. We'll see what the dynamic is. I don't know what it's going to be. So here I'm pushing through about halfway through the first operating round after almost all of the minor companies have come out. And let me look at what's happened because mainly I've run the new ones. The M&B, that's the Moscow Bray. This track was actually hooked up by their ally, the SPW, who also ran. They were able to buy a 3-train because they had the high price. Heading over to others, the Donuts down here, hooked into the main line of track. I don't know where they are. They're working with the Nikolaev, and again, they were able to buy, but they had to pick up a loan to do so. The Nikolaev itself, which was running, of course, one of the older companies, they have 2 trains, so they were able to pump out a lot of money. We're talking 50, 80, and 90, $170 base, so 85 split, 85 to each. They did not have enough initially to purchase the minor, so they're going to leave it in the owner's hands, in the player's hands, to produce one more revenue round. In general, in XX games, I believe very strongly that you want to get cash into your own hand. There are times when that's not the case. In this game, because you can't pillage your own cash for your company, it may actually be riskier. It may actually be that there's more cases where you want to buy trains. You may not want cash going into your pocket. I'm not sure of that. I'm not familiar enough with the game to tell, so I'm using my base instincts for XX there. Alright, what else do we have here? We have the Voronezh and the Tsaritsyn, or Vladivostok, sorry. The Vladivostok, down here just starting, also had to take out a loan to be able to even build a train. Now, you know, he's running low on money. He's going to have to pay interest of $5, but he does have a setup, so as long as nothing horrible happens like a 6-train coming out, he'll still be there. I am a little worried that the 3 trains are pushing so hard that somebody's going to have to do something about all these 2 trains that are out, because all these minor companies are going to end up in the Russian National Railway if something if someone's not careful. And that'll be very good for some of the players who don't have a lot of them. So we're going to have to watch out for that. And the final guy I ran with was the SPW. Is that the final? No, actually, the Ekaterinoslav, whatever. So the SPW built track, as I said, for the Moscow Bray. Or, I don't know how to pronounce that, because it's Polish-Russian. I mean, in France, it's Bray. I don't know if it's Brest or what it's going to be there. Remember, in empires and arms, it's always important to have two breasts. Doesn't matter what country you are. Okay, let's see. So they have pretty much their same static run between Poland and St. Petersburg. I think I forgot to pay out full. I think I only paid out 40 and 40. I forgot they had the minor there, which gives more money. So I want to make sure I get that. And now the Ekaterinoslav had to take out 2 loans, which we also see with the Tsaritsyn. And worse, they don't have enough money to cover 2 loans. Now, luckily, I looked at the rules, and the order of play is a little different from the 1856. You don't have to pay the interest on the loans until after you run your track, or after you run your train. So as long as they run, they'll have enough cash to pay off the interest on the loans. But still, that's kind of running it harsh. They were considering juggling trains. Decided that wasn't worth it for whatever payoff they get. They're able to run a 3 train over on the Ekaterinburg. The problem is that'll slow down their movement over to Moscow. But they're looking at this as a long-term company. Maybe not even a minor. Alright, I'm going to finish up this second half of the operating round. So we finish up that operating round going into a merger round, and I think there's a good chance there's going to be some mergers at this point. Mainly because most of the remainder of the train companies, and oh boy are there a lot, I just can't go through them all every time. Not that I always would anyway, but it seems early enough in the game that I should be. But the exciting thing was the Kiev Bray, or Brest, took out a heavy loan to buy the last 3 trains. That means the next train bought is going to demolish all those 2 trains. And that puts a lot of companies at risk. So for example, this guy has 1 3 train and a pair of 2s on 3 companies. He's got to work out some sort of solution there, especially since he has loans on one of them. Nikolaev's not that bad because it's going to produce good money while the 4 train's still there, so it may be able to get close enough that it can afford a 4 train. Again, just 2 companies, not so bad because they've got a 3 train between them. Same situation here. Here's another one in the big problem. Bought a 3 train with a lot of loans, has 2 trains on his other companies. Risky situation. This guy's of course good because he's got 2 3 trains and can probably crank out a train on the Kiev-Kursk or make some kind of merger or something. But it is risky for some of these players. I'll look at the mergers and figure out what's going to happen. That's about it. So the merger round went down, and I looked at everybody, and it didn't look like it was to anybody's clear advantage to make a merger or to convert a company into a corporation. I may regret this. There's some risk involved, but I don't think anybody can afford that 4 train for a while. And certainly we can see what happens. Well, see, the problem is there's going to be a stock round and then an operating round after this operating round. So if this, well, no, there's a merger after this operating round. So yeah, everybody's got one more chance to see. So if things look iffy at the end of this operating round, they could switch. Then the stock round, operating round, that's where weird stuff could happen because companies could float or whatever and have a lot of money to be able to purchase that train. So I think there's more of a chance of a merger after this operating round. I'll run through this one. So I've moved a number of the trains in this second operating round, and nobody's really had anything too exciting happen. There's been some big money moving around. A private company got sold. But now I came to, what is this? The Moscow Kursk is up next. Now the Moscow Kursk is sitting in a situation where they really want 2 trains. They can run out of Moscow twice, and we have that situation over with the Nikolaev, and maybe with something else, I don't know. The KB has 2 trains, but it's not in as powerful a position. Well, there's the TR down here, and that's got a nice train on it, and it's got a loan, and it's not in the best of positions. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to buy that train off the TR, and I'm going to let the TR crash into the nationalized railway. I'm not sure how valuable that is. One thing is, you don't lose all your money. It's not a game where you go bankrupt if that's the case. This would fall back. It's going to fall back 2 spaces, basically. So it would be worth $100. I'm not sure what he paid for it. Looks like around 110 or so. So it's not a big loss to get potent trains over there. And I'm making the bet that's the best move at this point for him. In case of poor planning, the Katrinoslav didn't have enough cash to reach Ufa. So they just laid this track, made less money. Painful at this point in the game. At any point in the game. But early in the game you want your money to turn over more quickly. And having a 3 train that's only hitting 2 cities doesn't really do a lot. Speaking of painful, I'm here running the KB, which is Kiev, right? Yeah. And I look at its position, and there's a weird situation here. This is the only game I've seen with this kind of ruling, but I've got 2 trains. I'm going to be running one into Poland, no big deal there. The second one, So, what's the Every other 18XX game, I can hit these 2 cities and count them, and I count them both. This one, however, doesn't say you can't, except in the merging section. It states, station markers of merging companies do not block, and you can run from a city to another space in the same city for the purposes of this rule. I don't know what that means. I really don't. I've been assuming, okay, fine. I just can't run, the run that I like, which is really valuable when you're in like Moscow or New York City in 1830. If there was a token here, I would say he's blocked. But why is he blocked? Why can't he go through? So what I'm just taking as an off-the-cuff decision here is that he can run a 2 train here and a 3 train 1. No. 2. And then 3. I may be mistaken, but the rules are not very clear about this whole situation, and there's an ambiguous piece of knowledge there for me, because no matter what, it doesn't follow what I'm used to. That's clear, but I don't know what to do with this. If there was a token there, I would have no problem with it being blocked, but I can't see it being blocked without a token. You should be able to travel through your city. I guess. I don't know. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. Note very carefully, I'm not hitting these minor towns. That's definitely clear in the rules. You can skip them if you like. And that's one of the kind of, wow, those things aren't hoses anymore in this game. So many times track is laid to avoid the small towns. Kind of like in 1856 that you can eliminate several Canadian citizens that way. But okay, anyway, just so you know what I'm doing and kind of why. And here we are in the merger round, and these are done in price order, just like the operating rounds. 2 mergers are occurring. First one that came up, Moscow Voronezh and Odessa Kiev are going to create the Moscow, Kiev, and Voronezh. You can pick any public company or public corporation you like. They're all the same though. They all have 3 tokens. Their price, they don't have any fixed location on the map or anything like that. They don't have any advantages. So I'm trying to pick ones that the names fit the companies that are crashing into it. Likewise, the Moscow Nizhny Novgorod and the Kharkov Rostov are turning into the Grand Russian. In both cases, this is a matter of, well, we don't have a lot of trains on either of these companies, and things are looking scary at this point. Somebody might be starting a corporation out of cash on hand and just floating something. Better protect our crappy companies. I'm not sure how much this one's really protected because it's sitting on 2 trains and not a lot of money. But the advantage of these is, well, first of all, nothing in the game crushes you. There's no bankruptcy, there's no forced train purchases. I mean, you have to buy one or crash it into horrible status or into the National Railway. But in this case, you get that 5 loans instead, which is a lot better than trying to get 2 companies to each have a train with only 2 loans each. So that's what we're going to go with, and I'll set up the markers and remove the prices. The prices are set, and all the counters actually came from this stack. This annoying stack, which is, if I bump the table, it's going to fall over, which is why I'd prefer counters to these wooden blocks. And imagine if it were these double-sized or triple-sized or whatever ones. Anyway, those are the new prices. It's the sum of the current prices of the miners. Now, the owners are only going to get 1 share per miner that they crash into it because of this way of creating a new corporation. If I just declared a corporation out of a miner, I would get the president's certificate for the miner alone. But that doesn't solve problems. That's just a good way of making the money work out for the owners. So what we're going to see is and we may see that with companies that are doing very well here very shortly. We may see them in the next couple operating rounds switching over to public corporations on just the miner. But like I said, that doesn't solve the problem, and I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how things work out. Certainly, crashing things together is how to get away from this issue. And we still got this thing waiting to implode into the National Railway.